When the sins of my father.
When the sins of my father. Hey guys, I'm Gregory West. Welcome back to the #1 channel on YouTube for learning how to sing. This video is going to be about tone. How do you change the tone of your voice when you sing? First off, we just need to get on the same page that changing your tone is something that you can do. You can change your tone. You can learn to have a more pleasant tone. You could learn to have an uglier tone. It's totally something that's under your control. I'm working on a very in-depth video about vocal tone. What are all the things you can do with your body to adjust the tone of your voice? But this video isn't going to get into the technical nitty-gritty side of tone. It's just going to give you some very practical advice on how to go about changing your tone and adjusting it in the direction that you want. Now, the #1 skill for improving your tone that you could learn and get better at is mimicking. Now, a lot of people are going to disagree with that. They'll say things like, don't mimic other singers, don't mimic your favorite artists, don't ever copy. And the reasons they might give might be that it's unhealthy to do that. They also might say that, it's not artistically authentic. It's not like you're not being you. You need to sing with your voice and be true to your voice. That is a bunch of nonsense, and here's why. All great singers were students at some point. They were learners. They were children. And what did they do? Well, they listened to their favorite music, or they listened to the church, or they listened to their family member who was a singer, and they copied them. That's how they got good, from copying. It's the same way that you and I learned how to speak our language. We basically just copied our parents, and we learned how to do it. Learning singing can be the exact same way, just copying, call and response. Really good singers are often actually really good at mimicking. They're good at doing voices, like voice acting, and they're also just good at copying the sounds of other singers. And this is because singers have an ability to hear sound and to copy that sound. They have an intuitive understanding that, oh, I can hear what they're doing with their tone, and I could recreate that in my own body. They basically have this skill. What you would want to do to improve your tone is to become good at mimicking other people's tone, to just be able to copy it. This is a skill you can cultivate and develop. I wasn't nearly as good at mimicking and copying different tones as I am now when I first started. I think the most important piece is your listening skills. Can you listen to a sound? Can you hear a sound? And can you analyze in detail? How much of that sound are you even perceiving? If you can't even hear that the sound is there, then how are you going to be able to copy it? When I was first singing and I would listen to songs and I would listen to singers, I wouldn't hear that much detail. Now, of course, at the time, I didn't know that I wasn't hearing it. How can you know what you don't know? But it wasn't until months later that I would listen back to the same song and be like, oh my God, I hear such different qualities in their voice. I hear things that I never heard before listening to the exact same thing. So step 1 is really just listen better and try to analyze and perceive and hear more about what singers are doing with their voices. And then the next step is just trying to copy it, just trying to mimic it. So it's like, if I go, ah, you go. If I go, e, you go. If I go, you go. If I go, you go. This is a powerful tool to learn how to sing, and this is basically the foundation of voice lessons. The teacher going, make the sound more like this, and then they give a demonstration. Why? Why do we need to demonstrate? Why can't we just describe the sound and then you do it? Because we don't learn that way. We need to hear the sound and process it, and then we can try to copy and mimic it. And then in a voice lesson, what happens is the teacher goes, no, that's not quite right. You're doing it more like this, and I want you to do it more like this. So if you become an effective mimicker, basically you learn how to teach yourself how to sing. Or another way of looking at it is you can basically listen to singers and copy them and learn how to do the skills that they're doing. You can basically learn from your favorite artists, the people whose tone you really love. You can learn how to copy that and get close to that, and they're your teachers. Now, if you feel discouraged from doing this because, you want to be authentic and genuine to yourself, you don't want to sing like somebody else, you want to sing as yourself, then don't worry. Mimicking and learning to be an effective mimicker and improving your tone this way is not incompatible with, having your own unique style or being your own individual authentic self. You need to look at mimicking as a skill, as a thing you can do to learn how to change the tone of your voice. I think what really puts this into perspective is Pablo Picasso's quote, "Good artists copy, great artists steal." What does that mean? What's the difference between copying and being good and stealing and being great? Well, copying would be exactly what I'm talking about with mimicking. It would be like if a painter looked at a painting and then was like, oh, I understand how they did that, and they were able to effectively replicate what it is that they were visually seeing. We're doing very much the same thing, just with our ears. We're hearing a sound, we're processing it, and then we're figuring out how to effectively do that same thing with our voice. So what's the difference between copying and stealing? Well, stealing is basically learning a skill because you copied it, but then taking that skill that you learned and internalizing it as yours, effectively stealing it, making it your own. So to give you an example, it would be like if you learned how to do breathy vocals because you studied Ariana Grande and you listened to a lot of her music and you just copied her. My business, God as my witness, stop what I finished. And then instead of aiming to be a carbon copy of Ariana Grande, you just took that skill of being breathy and you applied it in your own unique way. And so this is a process of basically internalizing the sounds that you've learned that other people are doing in a way that makes sense to you in a storytelling or emotional way. So for example, say you're unable to sing, with breathiness, but then you learn how to do it. And at first, all you're doing is just copying sound. You're just listening and you're going, ha, 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 ha. Stealing that ability that you're learning would be like trying to attach some kind of meaning to that breathiness, kind of saying, well, what does that remind me of? What could I use this for? This breathy sound. Maybe it feels like tender to you. Maybe it feels sensitive. Maybe it feels vulnerable. And then you basically try to use that breathy sound to express those things. I was dreaming of a past, and my heart was beating fast. When you've gone from using breathiness because you've heard somebody else do it and you're just copying it in the moment, to doing breathiness because breathiness is the right tone and the right sound to express the emotion that you want to express or communicate what you want to express, you've basically stolen it. And breathiness is just one example. You can do this with all sorts of different stuff. So how you can practice this is you can, just start by copying your favorite singers. Listen to the sounds that they're making and just copy, sing along with them. But you can take this a step further where you really try to analyze what their voice is doing. So in the description of this video, I've put a link to this really, really cool tool that is going to help you to become a better mimicker. It's called Transpose, and it's a Google extension. Once you've got it downloaded, just head over to YouTube and then go to your extensions, open it up, and you can basically just control everything from right here. So here's how it works. You can adjust it by half steps here. You can slow it down, speed it up, and the best part is that you can create these loops right here. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna keep it in the original key, and we're gonna find, first of all, where he starts singing. Okay, so I was watching the time. It was like right at 33 seconds. So just kind of go back, and then I'm going to press it right before. When the sins of my father. So what I just did right there is I created a loop. And what I did by pressing this marker is I encoded the time that it was currently at. I basically timed it so that I would get a chunk or a phrase of the song. And now I can loop that. So you press this button right here to make it a loop, and then it highlights it. Then you press play. When the sins of my father, when the sins of my father, when the sins of my father. And what this is going to allow you to do is hear something over and over and over again. It's going to give you time to process and time to hear things that you never heard before. I promise, when you listen to something like 5 times, you're going to hear things on that 5th time that you didn't hear on the first time. And remember, perception really is the key here with learning how to be a better mimicker. You have to be able to hear it in order to do it. So the next thing we can do is just slow it down, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and go to half speed. When the sins of my father. So now I have a really good idea after listening to that exactly where the vibrato is that he's doing, and I can hear some notes that I wasn't really perceiving before. And this is a really good tool just for learning how to do things like that as well, right? Things that are like musical things, like what are the notes that the artist is singing and where are they putting vibrato and stuff like that. But what I'm mainly going to be working on and listening for right here is, where do I hear different tonal changes and what do they sound like to me? And I recommend that you just play around with the speed. Maybe 50% isn't the right speed for you to perceive new things. Maybe it's a little wonky. Maybe it throws you off. So I'll try 75.
When the sins of my father, the sins of my father, the sins of my father.
So now after listening to it a couple times, I'm just going to go ahead and try to copy it. But first I'm going to play him, leave him on repeat, and I'm going to sing it with him. When the sins of my father, when the sins of my father, when the sins of my father. So now that I've done that, I'm just going to listen in one more time. Then I'm going to record myself. Then I'm going to compare them back to back.
When the sins of my father,
when the sins of my father,
when the sins of my father.
I'm also hearing this kind of like tiredness in his sound, right? Where it sounds like he's, like tired or like pained. And I think that I didn't really capture that quite as much.
When the sins of my
when the sins of my father, when the sins of my father,
when the sins of my father.
I think his volume at the end too is like diminishing, and mine is not diminishing quite so much. So I'm going to try to get that as well. Now I'm going to record it again. When the sins of my father, all right, and I think that was pretty good. I'm not trying to be a carbon copy. I'm just trying to get in the ballpark of what he's doing. I'm trying to listen for what it is he's doing with his voice. What is that skill? What is that technique? A little bit of that dirtiness, that creaking. Okay, I'm trying to do a little bit of that. I'm trying to communicate this like tiredness with my voice. And as long as I'm close enough, I don't have to do every single part exactly like him. That would be more like Pablo Picasso copying, and I'm trying to do more like Pablo Picasso stealing. So now I'll just speed it up.
When the sins of my father, 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 the sins of my father.
So I also kind of hear this like tone in his voice. And I know from experience copying and figuring out how to do different vocal techniques that's something that I call like the parrot tongue or the pirate tongue. So if you talk like a pirate, "Arr, matey, welcome aboard. Let's go hunt for the treasure." Or if you try to sound like the parrot Iago from Mulan,
"What a surprise! I almost died from that surprise. Ah, ah, ah."
So there's an element of that. And what that is basically a certain tongue position. Ah, ah, ah. So he's kind of shaping his vowels a little bit this way. And this is something that, people do. It's a vocal technique. It's a strategy. It colors the voice a certain way. It gives a certain tone. So me being able to pick up on this and perceive it is what's going to allow me to get closer to his tone.
When the sins of my father,
when the sins of my father, when the sins of my father, when the sins of my father. So I got to record it now and see how close I'm getting, right? This is a really important part of the process. You got to record yourself so you can see and compare and use your own ears and be like, on this note, I think I'm a little bit off, or you know what? I'm not hearing this quality that I heard in his sound. And when I listen to it, mine sounds kind of different.
When the sins of my father, when the sins of my father,
when the sins of my father.
When the sins of my father.
Okay, so it's pretty close, but I also just hear like more dirtiness in his tone. I'm honestly not sure how close I can get to that. It's almost like I hear him like almost being breathy at sometimes, but still having like this pushed quality. And to be honest, that makes me a little bit worried for his vocal health, but I'm going to try to get close to that. When the sins, when the sins of my father.
When the sins of my father.
When the sins of my father. When the sins of my father. I might be overdoing it, so I'm going to listen to it and see how close I'm getting.
When the sins of my father.
Okay, yeah, upon listening to that, there's an element of what he's doing there that I am getting. I think his is just a little bit more, polished. But I can learn this skill because I'm hearing it from him, and I can try to practice that on my own now and be like, okay, what if I try to like mix in a little bit of breathiness and grittiness at the same time? And that's how you learn techniques. That's how you learn skills. You just listen to what somebody's doing and you try to copy them. And so this internalization process of, me incorporating this and stealing this would mean that I would need to figure out a way where felt natural. And here's the thing, guys. If there's something that you really love, that you're really drawn to, you're going to want to do that, and you're just going to do it more and more and more, and it's going to become natural. So after doing that for like a year, it's going to be super natural. So that it's definitely something that I could do with my voice and that I could adopt and internalize. So it doesn't have to be something that is natural to you for you to be able to learn how to do it and for it to become your natural tone. Okay, your natural tone is just whatever your habit is, and your habit is something that you have control over changing. All right, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm trying to work on making my videos shorter, so I have more things I want to say about this kind of stuff, but I don't want to do 30 long minute videos. So if you liked this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and look out for future stuff. Drop a comment if you have a question or a suggestion, and I'll see you soon.